Hello friends and welcome back to my channel How Coding Kare. This is your instructor Ali and we'll continue our training on learning Python. So let's do a quick recap before we start. In the previous video we discussed about an introduction to Python, and then we discussed about what are variables, what is the use of variables, and how important variables are. And today we are going to look at operators. Oh, actually, before I forget, first of all, thank you to all my friends and family who gave me those valuable feedback after watching my videos. And I want to just quickly go back to what we covered yesterday on one of the topics. Yeah, the reserve words. So in reserve words, one of my very dear friend pointed out that I have the word is mentioned twice here. This is purely a typo error, guys. So if this has created confusion for anyone in any ways, I'm really sorry about that. Just a simple typo error. And the second thing, for the feedback that I spoke about IDE but didn't really give much details on IDE. So what we will do is we'll quickly cover a bit on IDE, right? So IDE is basically a platform that we can use in order to write uh, different kind of uh, coding or different kind of you can not just for writing like uh, Python code or Java code or like any specific language. You can also use IDE to perform different function like building infrastructure using application or coding like Terraform, right? So what is IDE? Let's quickly just understand that IDE is an integrated development environment. It is a software application that provides tools for writing, editing, debugging, and running code in one place, basically. And it helps programmers to write code more efficiently, I would say, with different kind of features like a code editor, a debugger, then you have compiler or an interpreter, then you have syntax highlighting, which I think is one of the best features that I've seen in IDE, because when the moment you start writing the code, it automatically gives you different highlights of the syntax so that you are easily able to understand what you're writing. And then another great feature, the auto completion, which is now available with if you have the AI plugin of if you have the AI plugin available for your IDE platform and you have integrated that or you added that plugin, it helps you to like you know how when you're typing an SMS message, you are able to auto spell the words using auto spell feature, right? So in the same way, you have the auto completion feature using AI, which basically helps you to speed up your coding. And then you also have integrated terminal in an IDE, which allows you to execute your commands if you want to test them. Okay, so let's quickly look at IDE. So the IDE that I use, like I mentioned in my previous video, is the IntelliJ. Uh, so what you can do is you can once you have installed your IntelliJ application, because I'm only going to talk about IntelliJ here, right? So once you have gone to the link and downloaded it, the link that I showed in my previous video, and you have downloaded the application and you launch it, it gives you an option if you want to open a new project, right? So I had already done that, but I'll again do it. So what I'll do is I'll go into this file, new, and I'm saying open a new project. And I'm saying in my C drive, what I'll do is let me just remove this and I will say, mm, no, not test. We'll say, let's code. Let's say let's code. Okay. And the project name I'm giving is let's code. All right. Now I'm going to say create. So what this will do is it'll create a folder in my C drive by the name let's code, and it'll put my project files basically inside that folder. So whatever project files we create, it'll start building inside that. So let me just close out the other one. Yep. This by default creates this file, so we don't need these files. Let's just quickly go ahead and get rid of these files. this one. Okay. Now let's create a new file. We'll create a new Python file. And oh, before I proceed, the reason why when I clicked on a new and I'm able to see Python file is because I have added the plugins already. So what you need to do is when you do the first time install, you go into file, you go into settings, and then you go into plugins, and then you go into marketplace, and then you have to basically search for the plugin with this basically your Python and then Python Community Edition. You can install these two plugins, and once you have installed these plugins, you will have to restart your IDE. And once you restart your IDE, it'll be able to recognize Python file. So we'll say let's add a new file, a new Python file, and then we'll say um, so what we're going to do today, we are going to do operators, right? So we'll say operators, right? And I'll say hit enter. The moment I do that, you see that it automatically picks up the extension .py, which is the default extension for Python files, right? Now, if I try to just type any command, let me just say I do print, right? The moment I do print, it comes up with this error message which says it can't find a Python interpreter. So you will need to configure the Python interpreter, which is needed for this code to be basically this program to understand the Python language, right? So for that, if you remember from my previous video, we installed the interactive Python. So you can use that as an interpreter here. So what you can do is you can click on configure Python, and then here in this drop down in the module, this should appear. If it is not appearing, then you can do add Python from SDK, go to your Python installation path, and then select that exe file, right? So I'll just select this now, and I'll say apply. I'll say okay. And see, the moment I did that, it automatically recognized my print command now, and it has converted its color, right? So if I just now do print, hello everyone, and I run this, it is able to execute it and give me the output, hello everyone. Okay, now let's go to operators. Okay, operators. Okay, so operators are again something which is very important in Python, and we'll see that now in some time why operators are so important and what are the different type of operators that we have and how they play that important role, right? So first we are going to look at the numeric operators, or the numeric or the arithmetic or the numeric operators. What are these operators now? We have the plus, which is used for addition. We have the minus, which is used for subtraction. We have the star symbol, which is used for multiplication. Then we have the single slash, the single forward slash, which is for division. And then we have two forward slash, which is for integer division. And I'll show that in a while what is the difference between these two, even though they both perform the division, right? And then we use 2 star to give power. For example, you want to write 2 to the power of 4, 2 to the power of 3, or 3 to the power of 6, then you can use 2 stars to write that command. And then you have the percentage command, which is basically for remainder, for finding the remainder. Okay, now because of, I would say, probably the lack of availability of mathematical symbols right on the keyboard itself, we basically use just these available operators in order to perform different kind of functions, right? Now let's do one thing. Why don't we actually look at it practically to see how they show up, right? Probably let's do that. Let's open our IDE. Let's code. And here, let's remove this. And we'll say a equal to 2. So we are defining a variable and we are giving it the value a. We are giving it the value 2. So we are saying a assignment operator 2. And then we are saying b equals to a plus a 3. Let's just take this. And then we'll say print b. Now if you run this command, you see the answer is 5. So basically what it did is it took the value of a set as 2, it took the value of b set as a plus 3. So value of a, which is 2 plus 3, and then it put that value into the variable b. And when we printed b, it just printed as 5, right? Now we can do similarly if we instead of plus, if I just convert this into minus, it becomes -1. Why? Because then the bigger number 3 here has the minus, so it automatically becomes minus here. Now if I do a into 3, that changes the answer to 6. Now if I change this to 4 and I say 8 divided by 4, so it becomes 0.5, because remember we are dividing 4 to 2. We are not dividing 2, so it's basically 4 is the bigger number, which is the denominator in this case. Now if we do 4 divided by a, then if we run this, see, now it comes with 2.0. The reason why it is giving 2.0, because we have used this single division line here. So basically what that does is it 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 gives the result in a float point. Now if you want to convert that to integer, then you add a second forward slash there, and if you do, then it converts answer to 2. So basically we are removing the floating point, or we can also say whatever is the remainder here. So in this case, if I'm setting this to say 11, and I'm saying 45 divided by a, so ideally it should be 4 point something, but since we have done an integer division, it removes the point. If we remove this one extra slash and we do this again, this time you'll see it gives the answer 4.090909, blah blah blah, right? So that is the main difference between using the division and integer division. And then let's look at power, right? So if we say power, we can say b equals to say a power 3. Now if we print this, it is 1331, so which is basically 11 into 11 into 11, right? So let's make it a little simple. Let's probably do say 3, right? So 3 to the power of 3 is 27, right? That is 3 into 3, 9, 9 into 3, 27. So this is how we do the power operation. And yeah, let's look at the percentage, right? So if we want to do, say, a is 10 here in this case now, and then we are doing a percentage. So what happens is it gives us 1. In this case, why it is giving 1 is basically it is giving us the remainder in this case. So when we are doing the division, 3 times 3 is 9 and the remainder is 1. Out of when we divide it to 10, the remainder is 1. So it has given us now the remainder as 1. All right, so hope that was clear. Now we can go to our next topic. Now that we learned about the operators, the arithmetic or numeric operators, it is very important to understand how Python performs different functions on these operators. So now basically the operation that we wrote was very simple, right? We just did like addition of two numbers or multiplication of two numbers. But what if it's a complex number, like there is within an expression we have given Python to perform multiple tasks, like it has to do addition, subtraction, it has to do division, and then it has to do it has to identify the power. If we give like a complex operation, how does Python do the precedence in order to fetch the answer for that operation, right? So what we basically call the highest to lowest precedence rule, or I think maybe if we just do a quick rewind and go back to school, and I'm sure all of you remember the Bode-Morse rule basically, right? Where you first give the precedence or the respect, the most respect you give to the parenthesis or the bracket. So when in an expression there is a bracket, that takes the highest precedence. Once the bracket precedence is completed, we next do the exponentiation, which is basically the power of that we looked at. And then we do the division and multiplication, which is always done left to right. And what I mean by left to right is probably when we look at it, we'll see it in a few minutes. And addition and subtraction have the last precedence, and again it is left to right. Now let's look at an example again, right? So to understand it better and let to practically put it in use, let's do it with an example, right? So let me pull up the IDE again. Okay, let's just comment all this out for the moment. We don't need this. And let's say we say a equals to 1 plus 2 to the, say, to the power of, say, 2 again, divided by 4, no, divided by 4 into 5 minus 1. Okay. Let's just do that, minus 1. Now if I do the command print a, what happens is, let's see, it gives me the answer as 5. Now why it gave me the answer 5, let's look at it, right? Let's see and understand what exactly happened in this expression and how it came to the answer 5. Now if we look at this operation, I would say this has to take the highest precedence here because we don't have brackets at the moment. So 2 to the power of 2, which is nothing but 4. So let's rewrite, just for our sake to understand, right? Let's rewrite that. So it becomes 1 plus 2 to the power of 2, 4 divided by 4 into 5 minus 1. Now next what happens? Once the first power is done, as we remember, the next one is after power is division and multiplication. Remember, both division and multiplication have same precedence, but which one takes precedence when it comes to deciding between division and multiplication? You always go from left to right. This is where the concept of going from left to right comes. So in this case, first division comes, which is 4 by 4, right? So 4 divided by 4 is basically 1. So we'll rewrite this. We'll say 1 plus 1 into 5 minus 1. Now next what is going to happen? Multiplication now, because multiplication is going to take precedence here. So let's write the next statement. 1 plus 1 into 5 is 5 minus 1, right? So now we have our expression is getting further simplified and simplified because we are applying the precedence rules one by one. So our next statement is going to be 1 plus 5, which is 6 minus 1, and then finally our answer, which is 5. So our answer is 5 here, but however we saw it as 5.0 because it automatically converts the number to a float. If we would have said, if we wanted to convert this answer to an int, we could also do this. We could say print int of a, right? If we would have done this, let me just remove this, and now I run the code, it converts it to an integer number and it removes the dot. Right, so hope that was clear. And if there is any confusion, if you still have any confusion with understanding how the precedence works, feel free to leave your comments on the video. I will make sure I get back to you with whatever questions you have asked. Okay, let's go on. Let's continue. Next, we are going to look at comparison operators. So what are comparison operators? The result of a comparison operator when it is used to perform a function is always going to be true or false. So basically, you ask a question using a comparison operator, and the answer that you get is going to be either a yes or a no, right? It's as simple as that. And based on that decision, the decision that is made, yes or no, you are going to use that to control the flow of your script. How you want basically your script to move forward. You are going to use that in order to control that. And that is where it becomes interesting, right? That is where Python becomes more and more interesting when you start looking at all these things. Now, you can also call these comparison operators or as Boolean expressions again, where you get a true or a false, a yes or a no, right? So what we'll do is, again, let's look at it with examples so that we better understand it, and the complete concept is like clear for us. Now let's do this. Let me bring up my IDE again. I'm just going to comment this out. Now, I'm going to use a bit of if statement in order to show you how the comparison operator works, but don't get don't be alarmed. We are going to get into the concept of learning the conditional statements and how conditional statement works in more depth. We'll look at it in more depth. So for now, just to explain to you guys, I'll use very simple statements in order to explain to you, right? So let's say we are saying a equals to 5, sorry, a equals to 5, and we are saying if a equal to 5, and then to close the I we have to use a colon. I'm going to print within the if block. I'm going to print, and I'm going to say print the value of variable a is 5. Now if I do a print, I mean if I run this code, see, it says the value of variable a is 5. Why did this print command get printed? Because it met this condition, because this was true, because this was yes. That is why it went inside the if block, and it printed this statement. If this was not true, right? For example, if our, then probably it would just, we would just say else, and say print the value of a is not 5, right? Now if I change this value to say 6, now it says the value of variable a is not 5. Now why did this happen? Because when it checked for this condition, if a is equal to 5, it was not true, so it went to the else statement and it just printed this statement, which basically says a is not equal to 5. Okay, similarly we can do, um, instead of equal to, we can say equal to or greater than, right? If we can say if a is equal to or greater than 5, then we'll say value of variable a is greater than 5. Let's say is not greater than 5. Okay, now if we run this command, the answer, what do you think the answer will be? It will say the value of variable a is greater than 5. Now if I remove this and I say 4, now it will print the value of variable a is not greater than 5. Okay, I hope that was clear. Now next we can also do, we can say greater than or equal to. Again, if it is either greater than 5 or equal to 5, it is going to print this, otherwise it is going to print this. So if I do this, it will say the value of variable a is not greater than 5, because again it is not meeting this condition, right? We can also similarly do smaller than, or we can do smaller than or equal to, and then we can accordingly change our print statements. We can also say a not equal to 5. Then we can say, if we can say the variable value of a is not equal to 5, or we can say the variable value of the value of the variable is equal to 5, based on the condition that we have defined here, right? So hope this gives you a good idea about how we use the logical operators. So the different logical operators are used in different in forming different functions in your projects, right? So what kind of different operators we have? Again, let's look at it quickly. The double equal to is equal to, then we have greater than or equal to, then we have smaller than or equal to, or less than or equal to, then we have greater than, less than, and not equal to. All right, now let's continue and let's look at the next operators, which is basically our logical operators. Now, logical operators in Python are used to basically combine multiple conditions and return true or false based on the logic that we have applied. And there are basically three logical operators which are available in Python. The operators are and, or, and not. What does the AND operator do? It returns true if both conditions are true. So if you are defining two conditions, like you're saying if 5 is greater than 3 and 10 is greater than 5, then only return the value as true, right? So if these two conditions meet, only then it'll say the result, that the answer that we'll get is true. And in OR, if it returns true for at least one condition that we have defined, then the answer it will return is true. So in this case, 5 is greater than 10 or 10 is greater than 5. So is 5 greater than 10? No, it is not. But is 10 greater than 5? Yes, it is. So it is going to return true. All right. And the not logical operator. What does the not logical operator do? The not logical operator basically just converts your answer that comes from the output to the reverse of it. So what I mean by that is, if you just write the statement here as not in parenthesis 5 greater than 3, so even though this is true, even though 5 is greater than 3, it is true, the answer that it will return is false. Okay, you want to see this? Let's just quickly look at this too, right? So let's again open our IDE editor. Let's comment this out. And if we say mm, print 5 greater than 3 and 10 greater than 5. Now if I just run this command, you will observe that the result it gives is true. And why it did that? Because both of these conditions have met, right? Now if I say or here, and if I change this to 3, right, the result of this is also going to return as true. Why? Because one of the conditions is meeting here, and that one condition is saying that it is true, so automatically the answer for this entire expression becomes true. This is very important to understand, right? So because using Boolean expressions you will be using when you write your complex codes, so you need to make sure that you have clear understanding of how your logical operators work, right? And now if I want to do print not, if I say 5 greater than 3, so 5 is actually greater than 3, which is a true, but what it does is it converts it to false. So this is exactly how the logical operators work. Yeah, we will look at logical operators in more detail when we go a little more depth into understanding more of statements that we have in Python. So for now, just to understand how the operations work, this should be clear. And in case again you have any doubts, feel free to reach out to me via comments. Okay, let's continue. And now we'll look at expressions. Now, if you closely look at these expressions, right, there are two different expressions that I've written here. In these expressions, I'm saying A1A HIT 38RB. This is something that I've randomly come up with, which is a variable I'm saying is equal to 2. And again, I've randomly come up with another name, which is equal to 3. And then I've come up with a third variable, which I'm saying is equal to this variable into this variable, right? And I'm saying print the value of this variable, which is this one. Now, while you are typing this as a programmer, it is not at all user friendly, because this doesn't make any sense. The variable doesn't have any meaning. You're just randomly creating a very complex variable name, which is going to confuse you. Which is going to cause problems for you when you are later trying to use it in the program, right? More simpler way, or more better way to write this would be, you would say, just use a simple variable a equals to 2, b equals to 3, and then you're saying c is equal to a into b, and then you're saying print c. It makes more sense here now, and it's very easy to understand when you look at it, like what exactly you're trying to do in this expression, right? Now, keeping that in mind, let us look at how we form sentences. So we can write sequential lines of sentences to create a task if we want to create a task. And now we basically write our first we have already written some Python programs, but let's say we are writing a very meaningful Python program now. And what is that? We are trying to calculate a salary for somebody, right? Now, how do you want to calculate that? For that, you need um, two values. What are those two values? You need to know how much is the pay that is being paid out per hour, which is say $10.5, and then you need the total hours, the number of hours that uh, your employee has worked, and then you say print pay into hours. So what this does is this multiplies the pay, which is 10.5 into 40, and then it gives you the answer, or basically it tells you how much is the pay to be paid to the employee, right? Now, if you look at this sentence, we have in look at these sentences, we have used variable, which we learned about in our previous video. We have used operator, which we learned today, which is basically we use one of the arithmetic operators here. Then we look at constant. What is constant? You are giving a constant value, a static value to your variable. And then you have also used the function, which is your print function. With that, using all of these, you have successfully written a Python program, or you have learned writing a Python program, which is able to calculate pay, right? Now let's look at this practically. So let me just bring up my editor, and let's just comment this out too. And now we'll say pay underscore rate equals to say 10.5, and then we'll say hours underscore worked equals to say 40. And then we'll say print pay underscore rate into hours underscore worked, and when we do run this command, the answer we get is 420. So basically, to your employee, you're going to pay for that week $420, right? Now, if you want to make it more meaningful, or you want to make it more easier for others to understand, right? What you can do is you can probably add a third variable where we can say total underscore pay equals to pay underscore rate into hours underscore worked. And let's remove this, and we'll make it more meaningful. So we'll use our f string, then open our brackets, and we'll say the total pay, oh sorry, there's a mistake here. The total pay to be paid to the employee is, and then we're using a floor bracket, and then we'll call it our variable that we want to call total pay, close our floor bracket, inverted commas and our bracket. And now when we do our run, it says the total pay to be paid to the employee is $420, right? So this is how you can you should basically form your sentences using meaningful variable names, and then try to create those um, print statements which are giving a more meaningful value. All right. Okay, so I think we'll stop here for our today's video, and then we'll continue with the next topics in our next video. But before we go today, I'm going to give you guys a little homework, right? So we learned about operators and different type of operators and what all the operators can do. So let me give you uh, okay, let me give you a numeric expression. I want you to use that expression and work on it. And in case you're already following with me and doing it interactive using the using the IDE interactive board or an IDE platform, then I would suggest use it use it on your tool and try to write the Python code and then try to execute the code and then verify your answer is correct. But before that, you try to solve the expression to make sure that you understand how the precedence works, right? So the question will be, let me bring up the ID here. Please make a note of this, guys. Let me comment this out. So the expression is going to be x equals to, let's just create something random, 6 plus 7 power of 2 divided by 4 into 8. And now let's do a minus, and we'll say 10 divided by 2. Let's close this, and then let's say into 3. Okay, so this is the expression, guys. X equals to 6 plus 7 power of 2 divided by 4 into 8 minus, in parenthesis, 10 by 2 into 3. Now I want you guys to do this calculation, work out the precedence and find out what is the value of x. And I'm going to announce the answer in the next class. And in fact, we can go through that before we start the next class. But work on this, get the answer. And if you have found out the answer, leave it in my comments, and I will review your answers and I will announce the winners. And very humble request, please do not use Google or do not use anything else to calculate this. Please use a pen, a paper, and scratch your head. If you're not, if you are already good at maths, then I don't think you'll have to scratch your head. But if you want to make sure that your maths is better, then please make sure you scratch your head and you try to go through the precedence rules and calculate the answer for this and come back with the answer. If you are not understanding it the first time, do it the second time. If you're not understanding it the second time, do it the third time. You fall, you get up. You fall, you get up. You fall, you get up. That is how we are going to learn, guys. Without putting efforts, without putting our hard work, if you expect things to just come to you, it's not going to work like that. You have to put in your efforts, you have to put in your hard work, and only then we are going to learn this. And together in this journey, we are going to be successful. So with that note, take care. See ya. See you all in my next class. Thank you. Bye bye.